And ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this very exciting show on the 7th day of September. Well, it's a beautiful day out here in Brisbane, 16 degrees and sunny. It's going to get up to about 22 degrees later in the day. Well, consider yourself very lucky to be living in this country. And of course, with this beautiful weather right at this point in time, we know that many different parts of the world are experiencing floods and other natural calamities. Well, right now, we have our own calamity. What do we have? Another interest rate hike. What does it mean for us?
Rising interest rates aren't taking the shine off this jewellery store's sales just yet. But in these times of financial uncertainty, more customers are seeking a safe haven in gold.
We've found that people are coming to us for really special pieces for either occasions, birthdays, engagement rings, but also to treat themselves, I think.
The owner is worried about what'll happen when the Reserve Bank's back-to-back rate hikes start hitting her customers' wallets. She's also got her own mortgage to pay.
I would say that, adding extra stress to people who could be spending their money in the local economy doesn't seem logical to me.
But that's exactly what the RBA is trying to do. It wants to slow spending, announcing another 0.5 percentage point hike to take the cash rate to 2.35%.
Now, this will be very difficult news for a lot of Australians with a mortgage.
The RBA Governor, Philip Lowe, admitted higher interest rates are putting pressure on household budgets, with the full effects yet to be felt in mortgage payments. The nation's biggest lender says it takes around 3 months for an increase in the cash rate to be felt by borrowers. The Commonwealth Bank says that means the Reserve Bank is effectively flying blind and warns of a risk to the economy if the aggressive rate hikes continue.
There is always a risk that the Reserve Bank goes too far, and the Reserve Bank is well aware of that. As the Governor has said very recently, it's a very narrow path that they have to walk, and there's a lot of uncertainty on that path.
The Reserve Bank is warning of more rate hikes ahead, but there are very subtle hints it may soon slow down its increases.
I think it's probably more likely to move towards the 3. Anything below that is probably still on the low side, historically.
If lenders pass on the latest rate hike in full, homeowners with a $750,000 mortgage and 25 years left on the loan will see their repayments rise by $216 a month, which means they're now paying $900 more than they were before the RBA started increasing rates in May. Daniel Khan's variable mortgage rate has gone up from 3% to almost 5%.
The monthly repayments have been quite substantial since the jump, but we've just done a whole revamp of our expenses, making sure we're not spending on unnecessary things.
Daniel and his partner bought their first home in Western Sydney in January 2021, when the market was strong. He's nervous about how high rates could go.
Increasing them quite a lot might cause a lot of people to have major lifestyle changes, and it might not be for the better.
A concern on the mind of many people who borrowed big when interest rates were at record lows.
Exactly, when interest rates were at record low, but the prices of the houses were very high. Interest rate is on the rise. House prices are on the way down. We'll discuss all of that in the 10 o'clock real estate update with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. Well, right now the next big news is that Queen has appointed Liz Truss as the new UK Prime Minister.
Liz Truss has just left Balmoral Castle, where she met with the Queen, and she was formally asked by the Queen to form a government. This is a tradition that the Queen always does at Buckingham Palace, but due to her mobility issues, she decided she would stay up there in Scotland and proceedings would take place up there. She could have delegated this responsibility, of course, but she clearly decided she wanted to see Liz Truss and meet her 15th Prime Minister, the 15th under her reign, that is. This is known as the kissing of the hands. It's of course doesn't really involve kissing, a handshake suffices, but the Queen is known to take a very keen interest in the goings-on of her governments. Exactly what was said during this meeting, we don't know, because these audiences with the Queen are always private, apart from the odd photos. So I think a lot of people would have been pleased to see this photo of the Queen, even though it was just a still shot, because we haven't seen much of her in recent weeks. But earlier, the Queen also saw the outgoing Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. He came up there to the castle to formally tender his resignation. This is normally an affair that's done very quickly. You know, one Prime Minister comes in, resigns, goes out, and they're immediately followed by the successor. That's to avoid the country being without a Prime Minister for too long. On this occasion, it actually took much, much longer, but I think there were some extra logistics to deal with, getting both leaders flying up to Aberdeen and then to the castle. But Liz Truss won't have a lot of time to savour the moment. She's already heading back to London, where she has a very busy schedule ahead of her.
Yes, tell us what happens next for Liz Truss. What are the immediate challenges she faces?
Well, weather permitting, we will see the new Prime Minister appear out the front of number 10 Downing Street, and that will be a significant moment for her. Not only will those images be significant, but this is a chance for her to outline her agenda. And number one on that agenda is going to be dealing with the ailing economy here in the UK, particularly the cost of living crisis. People's energy bills are skyrocketing here. A lot of people face the prospect of a very cold winter. Many households and businesses simply will not be able to pay them, and the Prime Minister knows that she's going to have to announce something on this soon. We're already hearing reports that this could involve a massive state intervention, potentially over £100 billion in state aid to essentially freeze people's bills over winter and offer some sort of support. Now, those bills will still be really high, but clearly the Prime Minister is under pressure to respond to this. It's not just the cost of living crisis, though. The NHS is really creaking at the moment. A lot of staff shortages, a lot of nurses and doctors overworked, and so there are a lot of big challenges for the Prime Minister to confront. Not just that, but many of the looming issues and the continuing issues with Brexit, also involving Northern Ireland, that Liz Truss will have to resolve in the top job. But she's under no illusions about the task ahead of her, and she's going to be under pressure almost from day one, because on Wednesday she goes straight into Parliament to face Prime Minister's questions with what's likely to be a pretty fired up opposition.
Not an easy job she's taken on. Nick Dole in London, thank you.
Thanks.
Earlier today, outgoing UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, as we've heard, said his final goodbye outside Downing Street. He urged the country to come together and back his successor in typical Boris Johnson fashion.
Let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific. And like Cincinnatus, I am returning to my plough, and I will be offering this government nothing but the most fervent support. This is a tough time for families up and down the country. We can and we will get through it, and we will come out stronger the other side. But I say to my fellow Conservatives, it's time for politics to be over, folks. It's time for us all to get behind Liz Truss and her team and her programme and deliver for the people of this country.
And deliver for the people of the country, leave the politics behind. It is all very good said, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and the crunch, people don't always do that. But if they did, wouldn't that be just so wonderful? But right now, let's go to southwest Sydney. where 5 teenagers have been killed in this horrific crash.
5 teenagers have been killed in a horror single-vehicle crash south of Sydney. Emergency responders had to deal with a confronting and traumatic scene after being called to Buxton near Picton, south of Sydney, at about 8 o'clock.
Police say the Nissan ute left the road and hit a tree. 3 young women and 2 men died at the scene. The 18-year-old driver is in hospital. Let's go straight to Manaz Anguri, who's at Liverpool Hospital for us today. So, Manaz, unbelievably tragic accident. What more do we know?
Morning, Mads. Yes, absolutely devastating scenes at the crash site last night. Police have described it as critical and traumatic. Like you mentioned, emergency services were called to East Parade in Buxton just before 8 p.m. last night, following reports a utility had gone off the road and crashed into a tree. 5 people have died. They're believed to be teenagers, 3 females, 2 males, and they were all passengers. And the 18-year-old driver suffered non-life-threatening injuries. He was treated by paramedics at the scene before he was arrested and brought here to Liverpool Hospital, where he's undertaking mandatory testing. Now, police have said this is probably one of the worst crashes they've seen in a very long time. They're also speaking to the local high school where they believe some of the children went to organise some sort of counselling for the kids. Here's a little of what the police had to say.
A traumatic event like this will have a devastating impact on the families, friends and the local communities. We believe a number of the children go to the local high school. We have spoken to the principal of the high school to facilitate some counselling at the school tomorrow.
Now, investigation is underway into the circumstances of the crash, but police say it's still too early to know exactly what happened.
Still a little bit too early to know what exactly happened, but that is very horrific. And of course, we know that incidents like this cause a lot of stress and trauma to the community. Well, if you are in politics, if you are a community, politics and a politician, and if you're a leader of the community, should you be more responsible or in your driving? So if you drink, don't drive.
Budget estimates is usually an opportunity for the upper house to interrogate the government. But Mark Latham turned his attention to a Labor MP.
Who we saw in the staff bar that night, paralytically drunk. As drunk as anyone I've ever seen in my long time working in a Parliament House, screaming into her phone, "You're too effing good for him."
The MP is Anna Watson. She's been the member for Shell Harbour on the South Coast since 2011.
Was there a security report later that night concerning the way in which parliamentary staff had to stand in front of the car of this particular member to stop her from driving home?
I'm not aware of any security report.
This is now out of control. The member continues to reflect on another member.
Ms Watson released a statement saying she had turned to alcohol during a difficult time in her life 2 years ago. "I was having a drink with Mr Latham in the Parliament House bar. I thought I had his ear and a shoulder to cry on that evening. I did drink too much alcohol during that extremely stressful and traumatic period," but added, "I did not attempt to drive." Ms Watson is the 3rd Labor MP whose behaviour has been called into question since last month's release of the Broderick Review into bullying, harassment and sexual misconduct at Parliament. Alcohol was identified as a contributing factor. She's part of the advisory group which helped oversee the review. Mr Latham, who's had his own public misdemeanours, has concerns about Ms Watson's involvement in that group.
I'm asking questions about someone on an advisory group for serious misconduct who had the high. The absolute high to get on a group passing judgment about the rest of us, given the fact in the bar that night she could barely stand up.
Ms Watson says she's now abstaining from alcohol and her leader is standing by her. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
So there you are. Circumstances in everyone's lives are difficult and people do take to alcohol, but being a responsible member of the parliamentary committee, being a member of the parliament, you have a little bit more duty of care out there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina held bilateral talks on September 6th.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is on a 4-day visit to India. She met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on September 6th upon her arrival at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. She arrived in Delhi on September 5th and met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to discuss issues of bilateral interest. She later visited Nizamuddin Aulia Dargah, a prominent pilgrimage tourist attraction in Delhi. Bangladesh is a key partner under India's Neighbourhood First policy. Under Modi and Sheikh Hasina, India and Bangladesh have attained tangible results in areas including settling land and maritime boundary demarcation, security, connectivity, development cooperation, cultural exchange, power and energy, trade and commerce, blue economy and defence. This is her first visit after both nations' bilateral relations touched their 50th year in 2021. Later in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held one-on-one bilateral discussions with the visiting Bangladesh Prime Minister in New Delhi.
Liz Truss is to be sworn in as 56th Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after she defeated her rival Rishi Sunak of Indian origin in elections.
Liz Truss will be sworn in as the 56th Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on September 6th. She succeeds Boris Johnson, who will be tendering his resignation to Queen Elizabeth II. Truss was elected the UK Prime Minister and Conservative Party leader by her fellow party members. Former Foreign Secretary Truss defeated rival Rishi Sunak with 57% of the votes. 47-year-old Truss will be the third female Prime Minister to lead the country. The previous female Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, and Theresa May were also from the Conservative Party. Outgoing Prime Minister Johnson congratulated Truss on her victory and said she has the right plan to unite the party. Former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who attacked her economic plans during the campaign, said that he will offer Truss his full support. Truss will now face the task of reshaping the economy, arresting surging inflation and tackling the energy crisis that is affecting the entire European continent. In her victory speech, she promised a bold program of tax cuts to grow the flagging economy and prevent the UK from tipping into recession. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Liz Truss for being chosen to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. In a tweet, Modi said he is confident that under the leadership of Liz Truss, the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership will be further strengthened. The Prime Minister also wished her to succeed in her new role and responsibilities.
India's two cities, Telangana's Warangal and Kerala's Thrissur, join UNESCO's global network of learning cities.
Indian state Telangana's second largest city, Warangal, and Kerala's culture capital, Thrissur, have joined the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization's global network of learning cities, a statement by India at the UNESCO said. India's Culture and Tourism Minister G. Kishan Reddy called Warangal's achievement great news and also congratulated the city and the southern state for its second recognition in the last 1 year by the UN agency. Great news! Warangal in Telangana state joins the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. Congratulations Warangal and Telangana on this momentous occasion. After the inscription of World Heritage Site tag by UNESCO to the Great Ramappa Temple in Warangal, Telangana gets its second recognition in the last 1 year by UNESCO, Reddy tweeted. Kishan Reddy thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his sustained efforts to obtain recognition and exhibit the rich cultural heritage of India. According to UNESCO's website, the network is a global policy-oriented network offering inspiration, know-how and best practice. It further stated that learning about cities at all stages of development can benefit vastly from sharing ideas with other cities as solutions for problems.
Indian Army Chief General Manoj Pandey handed over military aid to Nepal and was conferred the honorary rank of General of the Nepalese Army.
India's Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey on September 5th handed over non-lethal military aid in the form of artillery equipment, mine-protected vehicles, medical stores and horses to his Nepalese counterpart General Prabhu Ram Sharma. The Indian Army Chief's 4-day official visit to the neighbouring country comes on the back of Kathmandu, raising concerns about how the new Agnipath short-term military recruitment model may affect Nepalese citizens. The army has been recruiting Nepali citizens annually for decades for its Gorkha regiments, which have 39 battalions, with recent figures the recruitment of around 2,000. General Pandey's present visit to the Himalayan country seeks to strengthen bilateral defense ties between the two countries. General Pandey was also conferred the honorary rank of General of the Nepalese Army by President Bidya Devi Bhandari on September 5th at a special ceremony in Sheetal Niwas, Bhandari's official residence. Army chiefs of India and Nepal are honorary generals of each other's armies, an arrangement that reflects the military solid connection between the two countries. Telangana CM hits out a Modi for corporatizing farm sector.
Telangana Chief Minister KCR alleged that the union government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi had put up airports, ports, banks and public sector undertakings for sale. And now the union government is trying to corporatize the agriculture sector by weakening the farmers and handing over their lands to big business houses.
Telangana Rashtra Samiti President and Chief Minister of Telangana State K. Chandrasekhar Rao on September 5th announced a supply of quality power to the agriculture sector free of cost across the country if a non-BJP front is voted to power during the 2024 general election. Addressing a public meeting in Nizamabad, he reiterated that he will soon enter national politics and asked the people, "Should I enter national politics?" And the crowds responded by shouting, "Yes. Thanks for blessing me. I am making my first move in my journey in national politics with this meeting," the TRS chief said. KCR charged the Modi government with partiality and said that the centre was bringing pressure on the states to wind up their welfare schemes. He wondered why Modi, who waived bank loans worth 10 lakh crores defaulted by the corporates by treating them as non-productive assets, cannot spend 1.45 lakh crores on the free power supply to farmers.
Bihar State Chief Minister Nitish Kumar meets Congress leader Rahul Gandhi seeking the unity of opposition parties.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has said that a good atmosphere will be created if opposition parties unite. Kumar met Congress leader Rahul Gandhi in New Delhi on September 5th, clarifying once again that he has no ambition to become Prime Minister. He said that if the opposition gets united, then a good atmosphere will be created. He has no desire and no aspiration to become Prime Minister. A number of topics were discussed in the first meeting between Gandhi and Kumar, soon after the latter walked out of a National Democratic Alliance to form a government in Bihar with the Rashtra Janata Dal, the Congress, and the left as allies. He wishes to unite the like-minded parties to contest the 2024 general elections together. Kumar also met with former Karnataka Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy and is scheduled to meet his Delhi counterpart Arvind Kejriwal and a number of key opposition leaders on September 6th. Kumar's meeting with Gandhi comes a day after the latter announced at a rally that the Congress and other opposition parties would together defeat the ideology of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, the ideological parent of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Jharkhand State Chief Minister Hemant Soren wins trust vote in the assembly amid BJP walkout.
Amid doubts over the continuation of Chief Minister Hemant Soren as an MLA, the Jharkhand State Assembly on September 5th passed the confidence motion tabled by the ruling coalition, even as the main opposition party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, staged a walkout just ahead of the voting. Of the 82-member assembly, 48 MLAs voted in favour of the government. In all, 29 MLAs from Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, 15 from Congress and 1 each from the Rashtra Janata Dal, NCP and CPI-ML. The sole nominated member representing the Anglo-Indian community also voted for the government. The BJP, its ally the AJSU, and independent legislators Saryu Roy and Amit Yadav were the ones who staged the walkout. Both Roy and Yadav won as BJP rebels in 2019 and the former supported the government until recently. The main opposition BJP has 26 MLAs in the House while the AJSU party has 2.
Equity market sees green as BSE Sensex jumps 250 points to trade at 59,500 while NSE Nifty 50 soared to 17,765.
Indian equity market benchmarks BSE Sensex and NSE Nifty 50 were trading nearly 0.5% up on September 6th amid mixed Asian cues. On September 5th, both stock indices logged gains as Sensex finished near 59,250 points while the Nifty settled above the 17,650 level. In the early morning trade, BSE Sensex jumped 250 points to trade at 59,500 while NSE Nifty 50 soared to 17,765. Stocks of Power Grid Corporation of India, Reliance Industries, NTPC, Maruti Suzuki, L&T and Bharti Airtel were among the top BSE Sensex gainers. On the flip side, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Nestle India, Wipro, Tata Consultancy Services, Dr. Reddy's, Tech Mahindra and Infosys were among the top index losers. Reliance Industries in a statement declared that it will acquire a majority stake in US-based software developer Sensog Incorporation for $32 million to boost RIL chairman Mukesh Ambani's solar energy plans.
After 40 days of its theatrical release, John Abraham and Arjun Kapoor starrer Ek Villain Returns is to release on OTT.
After a fair theatrical run despite the negative reviews, John Abraham and Arjun Kapoor starrer Ek.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment today. And it's been wonderful having your company. And don't forget that we are back at 10 a.m. With the latest on real estate. And before we go, we will try and see if we can take a quick look at the functions and events taking place. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment. It's been wonderful having your company. Until the next segment, it's goodbye from us.